Thank you very much, and welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode 104. This is our first show of 2018, and we want to talk to you about how to set photography goals. Happy New Year, everybody. My name is William Beem.
Happy New Year. This is Lee Beem.
And if you're listening to this sometime when it's not the New Year, well, then you can just disregard that announcement.
Well, it stays new until it becomes old in December, right?
Yeah, it could be the different year when you're listening if you're listening later on.
Well, then it's real old.
All right, so never mind the Happy New Year. Hey, today we want to talk about how to set photography goals because it's the new year as we're recording this. Yeah, I mean, literally, it's New Year's Day as we're recording, and everybody wants to talk about goals. I was just reading on Facebook a bunch of people saying, what are your photography goals for the year? And we've got a little bit of a different take on that. I don't think goals are necessarily time-bound. But before we get into that, I want to let you know that show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 104. And I have a new giveaway for you. This is a set of free Lightroom portrait brushes. It's available at williambeem.com/free brushes. And what we have is a collection of brushes to help you enhance the eyes, the whites of the eyes and the irises. Those are separate brushes. Enhance teeth and enhance skin, both light skin and dark skin. And they're very easy to use brushes, and you can kind of set how strong they are based upon the flow. I've got it set kind of at a low flow to begin with, and you can also take the density and kind of slide that up and down. We think that portrait retouching ought to be rather subtle.
Yeah.
You don't want to eliminate the skin tone, or the texture. You don't want to oversaturate the eyes. You just simply want to bring them out a little bit, and I think that's what these brushes will do for you. But they're free for you. Please go ahead and pick them up, share them with a friend. It is at williambeem.com/free brushes. Let's go ahead and get into talking about our photography goals. First, let's start off with, why do people actually want to set goals at the beginning of the new year?
I do think it's important to have some kind of structure when you're trying to pursue something. Anything that you try and achieve, if you want to get somewhere, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And in between there is really where you have to figure out how to get from the start to the finish. But that's kind of, it's quite broad. So there's a lot to discuss about it. But I'm actually very in favor of goals. I've just got a weird approach to them.
And we're going to have a little bit of a slightly different approach to the goals that I've been seeing. I'm going to read off some of the ones I found on Facebook. And this may be similar to a show we did just a couple of episodes ago. On episode 102, we talked about photography challenges. Those are very specifically time-bound. But we don't think that goals are necessarily, the trigger to end a goal isn't how long it takes. So it's not just what you're going to do this year.
Yeah.
Your goal is different than your challenge. Your challenge is going to have a specific time frame, beginning and end. And what that time frame is depends upon what your challenge is. But a goal is something that may take you multiple years to get to, or maybe it'll only take you a few weeks. It depends upon what you do. It's not a time-bound thing, I guess.
It really isn't, no.
I was looking out on Facebook. I've got some examples of what people answered when someone asked, what are your photography goals? And one of them I saw on Twitter as well is from a friend of mine, Michael Reeves. He says to create more shareable photos.
What does that mean?
I think it means more photos that he's proud to share on social media.
Okay. So he wants better photos. Basically,
he wants better photos. He wants to be able to share photos. And when he says shareable photos, I haven't talked to him about this, but I think basically he wants to improve the quality of his photos that he's putting out. Okay. In other words, not just putting out snapshots, but creating something that's more of a statement of who he is as a photographer. That's my guess. Michael, if you're listening and I'm wrong, let me know. But here's an example of some of the other ones. Improve portrait headshot photos, air-to-air aviation photography, any chance I get. Another one is travel to new and beautiful places for landscape photos. Someone said simply to get more gear. There are a couple of people who talked about either starting or improving their existing photography business. And many people just said, shoot more. In other words, spend more time taking photographs.
I like the get more gear, because that's like an American Express dream. They're going to be writing you.
That's what you call gear acquisition syndrome.
Yes.
It's like gas.
I think most people go through it, though, initially, because there's certain things that you figure out you need to be able to do the job. I mean, there are things that you need if you want to achieve certain things. So I get that in the early days, or if you're changing genres or something. But it kind of made me smile when I just thought, get more gear, because you could take that pretty literally.
For some people, that's a goal. I mean, it's like they want to have different toys to play with. And I don't discredit that. I mean, look at me. I don't necessarily have the most gear of anybody I know, but I've got a lot of stuff, but I kind of tend to use the same ones over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, I have actually not known Will, but known somebody just through social interaction who had this obsession with every time he saw somebody buy something, he'd get it. Now, I remember buying things very specifically so that I could take fireworks photos on a tripod. And there were things that I needed, like a cabled shutter release. And he was like, "Oh, do you get a cabled shutter release?" And went and bought one. I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, I think it will come in handy." And I said, "For what?" And he got quite upset with me, although he couldn't answer.
I know.
But I mean, that was somebody who just, as soon as he saw somebody bought something, he had to have that something, but he didn't know why. And it was really funny because I would go and list things that I was planning to buy just in case to see if he'd go and get it.
For the goals I'm going to present here, I've got some stuff that I want to buy, but the only reason that I want to buy them is because they help me solve a problem that my current gear does not. And I'm wondering if I'm going to be making a switch from what my current gear is to this new stuff, or if I'm going to find a way to work both of them together. If I make a switch, then I can sell off my old gear to kind of compensate for this. Yeah. But I'm planning on selling off my motorcycle so I can buy the gear anyways and still have money spare. When it comes down to how to set your photography goals, Lee, you were just doing this with your running group.
Yes.
And a lot of people were sharing their goals. And how did you look at it from that perspective? I mean, I know it's not, running and photography are not necessarily the same thing, but goal setting kind of is.
Goal setting is really important. And I mean, I've been working my way through about 700 responses to a goal questionnaire that was sent out. I literally treat each one as though it was the only one, because goal setting is a very personal thing. That is something where someone is investing of themselves. It's not just about what they achieve, but it also is going to translate into how they feel about themselves and how they see themselves as whatever it may be, you know, a runner, or in this case, a photographer here. It is not something that you just brush off. That's my view of it, which is kind of funny because I've got a strange view of goals. And you get people who are very vague. You get people who just say, you know, I want to run more. Well, you know, I can help with that. I can actually help if it is a relaxed goal, there's nothing wrong with that. But then you get people who are very, very specific about, I've got this lined up at various dates of the year. This is the pace I want to run. This is the time I want to finish. This is what I'm trying to achieve. Then others give you a little bit of background information, say, this is where I am. And this is where I want to be by kind of between the fall and the winter of next year. Those are actually easier for me to look at and say, okay, this looks realistic. It's a good challenge, but it's doable. And I think where it comes back to what we're talking about here with photography is, you know, we just went through a list of examples of goals. And without a little bit of background of where you are right now, it's very difficult to tell how to progress to where you want to be. You know, if you're putting a time on it, that affects how quickly and how much work you need to put into getting there. And for some people, if it's just a journey that you want to enjoy, it's a lot more loose and easy and relaxed.
Here's the way I look at the difference between a challenge and a goal. A challenge is time bound and you are looking for a measurable improvement.
Yes, but a lot of people are putting their goals as time bound because they want to set their goal to start on January 1st, very specifically. And ultimately, people are setting 2018 goals, want to achieve them by December 31st. And I think that is a given. It is, I think it is very limiting, and it can actually hinder progress, because what if you achieve it February of next year? Does that mean you failed?
Well, that's the problem, I think, with putting time constraints on a goal. A challenge, yes, I absolutely agree with time constraints on a challenge. You want to say, within this measurable period of time, I want to progress from where I am now to a specific measurable result within this time frame. A goal, I feel, is quality and delivery bound. So here's an example. My goal is I want to create a body of work that will be a portrait gallery that will also be shown or displayed somewhere.
Yeah.
I may not be able to do that all in 2018. I certainly hope that I am.
Yeah.
I'm already proceeding as if I will do it this year. But there's a difference between creating what I want to create and displaying it. I've got to hit a certain level of quality and a theme. I've got all these elements that I have to pull together before a gallery is willing to show it.
See, I think setting a goal, you automatically have a framework, because when you set a goal, you have a starting point, which is wherever you are now. And the ultimate goal is, I don't want to say the end point, because with a goal, it never is. But that is the achievement where your immediate focus is as you work through it. But within that journey, you should have a lot of flexibility. And shifting things around is should not be a problem. You've got to be able to live with that in that framework. If you're being choked by it, it's not really going to motivate you to push forward with it. I don't want to feel like I've got like my goal is a slave driver beating me on the back to get me where I am because there's some kind of deadline. And I mean, I did this last year. I set a goal in the summer for the fall, and about 8 weeks into it, I looked at it and thought, this is maybe not the time to be doing this because I'm ruining the joy of the journey. I haven't abandoned the goal, but I decided not to push it for 2017.
Well, in my case, my objective or my goal is I want to have a gallery showing. And for photographers that have done that, they may not want to do it again. Who knows what their experience was? I've not experienced that. It's something that I want to do. And I don't mean just have one print or one, photograph that's in a gallery. I'm talking about a gallery that is entirely mine. I have decided on going with fitness portraits, and I've got a certain level of quality in my mind of what that's going to be. And that's going to be the theme that I'm working with. But you know what? That may not end up being what I put in that ultimately becomes the gallery. I may work through that and find out, okay, this is not it. I've still got a body of work that I've done, but I haven't met my goal until I've got the gallery showing. Now, in order to meet this goal, I need to do a lot more location photography. And I realized that the lighting equipment that I have, although very good, is a bit cumbersome for going on location in some places. The Nikon speed lights that I have don't have the power that I'm going to need to do what I want to do. The Ellen Crom studio lights that I have are wonderful, and so are the softboxes I've got, but they need to be plugged into something. So I'm looking at what gear do I need to acquire. Either that I met somebody else's goal already, get more gear.
There we go.
What gear do I need to acquire in order to achieve the results that I want on location in order to create a gallery quality of work that maybe somebody will show?
Yeah.
And I've got to learn a lot more about gallery showings too.
But the learning is part of it. Yeah.
The learning is part of it, but this is something that's going to be satisfying for me. Or at least I certainly hope so. That's my goal. And as a result of showing a gallery, I'm hoping to get more attention, and in that in turn drive me to do other things. Yeah. And maybe I can teach lessons based upon what I learn. Maybe I will learn things that I'll tell people, don't you ever want to do this. I have no idea what it is, but it's going to be an experience. And that's kind of the purpose of a goal, is really to focus my experience with photography into something tangible.
But you get value out of the experience on the journey. For example, if your goal shifts and changes, and I'm very much in favor of flexible goals. When I set something out, I like to focus on it initially, but I also realize that sometimes other opportunities or maybe obstacles present themselves along the way, and they might pull you in a different direction. It doesn't mean your goal's been abandoned, but there might be a better way to get there, or there might be a better destination, which means shifting your goal on the way there. And I think just being open-minded is really helpful. Embrace everything that comes up along the way. You might end up with more gear. So maybe that wasn't what you planned to do, and you spent money you hoped you wouldn't spend, but you're not going to come out of it with nothing. No. Whatever you do on the journey, you are going to have something. Learn to recognize the something and not only be goal locked, because that is not everything. The journey is almost a bigger part than the destination.
Yeah. And this brings out something that's not just for me. For all these people that I'm going to be going with for these portraits, I've got something that I can then give to them, and then they can share with their friends or their audience, whoever they may be, and say, this is me doing what I love doing.
Yeah.
And I want to give them, magazine quality or better results, showing them what they're passionate about. And that's the thing I like about working with athletes, is they can be very passionate about what they do.
Yes. and quite obsessed.
Yeah. And you work with them all the time, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. These people really love what they do. They go through hell to get it done. And if you can present them with something showing them doing what they do, and they can say, see, this is what I strive for.
Yes.
That to me is a wonderful part of the goal, is that, yes, I want to have the gallery showing. That's what I do. But also I can share something with people who are doing what they love.
And in the process, you're making connections, you're networking with people. There are people who might come to rely on you for work in the future or for support, and may be able to refer you. It could go anywhere, but don't discount the little pit stops, or what seem to be pit stops along the way. Sometimes those pit stops are big investments, but you need to recognize them.
Well, this is why I separate goals from challenges. Challenges, you may have multiple challenges that you do within your goals. So in other words, If I felt that I needed to improve in certain areas in order to achieve my goal, then yeah, I would set a challenge that's time bound. So that if I needed to improve my lighting, if I needed to improve my composition, or if I need to improve my networking, whatever that may be, those are challenges within my goal.
Yeah.
And those are time bound because you've got to get to a certain level within a certain amount of time. But the goal itself, I don't think you're doing yourself any favor saying I must have a gallery showing by October of this year. You don't know if there's scheduled room available for a gallery to show you at that time. You don't know if your work is going to be ready by the time, because in my case, I'm depending upon other people to cooperate and collaborate with me.
Yeah.
So goals, I think, are very important. They drive you and you learn and grow along the way. One of the things you just brought up that I hadn't considered as much, but is really important, is the networking out of this. I reached out to the first person that I really wanted to shoot. She is a competitive, power lifter, and she's about an hour away from here. She's got a world record, and I really admire this girl. She's one of the models I shot when I first got started, and now she's into this whole different world. Rather than doing, the stage modeling, she's off doing powerlifting. And she said, "Oh, great. I'll invite like 5 or 6 of my girlfriends to come along. We'll make a party of it." I thought, well, okay, there we go. And now suddenly my day shooting is much more complex and complicated than I thought.
But that's an opportunity where if that had been your goal, which you didn't even think about, getting that together, from cold calling would be really difficult. It could take you the better part of a year to find something really good. Well, and here, just by the networking, there you go. It presents opportunities.
Yeah, it's like crisis and opportunity walk hand in hand. So in other words, suddenly I've got, half a dozen, fit women that I've got to photograph in one day, and I don't know what my space is going to be like and how I'm going to juggle them together. But at the same time, this is an opportunity to help build the portfolio I'm talking about. I need to have probably 24 people.
It is. And maybe you need 2 days. And I think this actually highlights the whole point of what we're discussing here. You could see it as a distraction or as an interruption. Think, oh, well, I didn't really plan to do a whole bunch of people. I just wanted the one. You've actually recognized here's a great opportunity. So maybe we'll spend a little bit more time on this and get a whole lot more out of it. That might actually, it could mean that it takes longer to get to your ultimate goal. Well, but this in itself is a goal that's been achieved.
Well, exactly. And in itself, it means that I get to meet these people and start networking with them. I get to present them with some photographs. But if we decide, what, this is not ultimately the best for each of these individual people, then maybe I can schedule something with them individually later on to go get the shot that we want, both for them and for what I want to put into a gallery piece. And I just thought, okay, at first I panicked a little bit. I thought 6 people. Oh no. Then I thought, this is great. I need to meet more people.
Yes.
I mean, how am I going to do a gallery of fitness athletes if I don't meet them?
Well, it's kind of like, I guess a challenge is arriving at the airport. The goal is your preparation, your journey, and your entire vacation.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the whole package. And, if you can stretch that out, all the better for the experience.
One of the things I guess I wanted to talk about for photography goals is you need to swing for the fences. You really need to reach. Anybody can say, I want to, get better at so-and-so. Well, to me, that's a challenge. You can pick a time frame and you can say specifically what it is you want to get better at. A goal needs to have a deliverable, I think. Either a deliverable or something specific that you've achieved.
Yes.
For some people, their goal is to run their very first marathon. And that requires, as you know, a lot of preparation and training.
Yeah.
If you've never really run anything before, or let's say that maybe you run 5Ks, what you've taught me is that you need a very different set of training and preparation for running a 5 or a 10K versus running a marathon.
Yeah.
You need to know much more about how you're fueling your body to handle the endurance. You need to know what clothing and gear works for you, because you might find out that the shirt that you run in for 5K is chafing you too much as you're running a marathon.
Yep, absolutely. But here's the thing. That's a really nice example, because anybody who's run a 5K and comes and says that they want to run a marathon, I can guarantee that almost 99% certain, and probably more, they can finish a marathon. And so this is what you were saying about swinging for the fences. Although it sounds absolutely impossible, 8 weeks later, this person's 5K has become their warm-up. And it is quite amazing what you can do, but you have to take that step. And what it comes down to when you're achieving a goal or anything that you set your mind to do, the first step for me is making a quality commitment. And when you make a commitment to do something and follow a path, that is when you're on your way, before you even do anything. And that's the problem I have with New Year's resolutions. It's kind of going with the pack. I'm known for swimming against the tide. I just peer pressure. I don't bow to it. I don't want, I'm not going to live somebody else's dream because I'm never going to get the credit for it. So why would I chase their goals? Doing stuff just because everybody is doing stuff doesn't really give you that same passion as when you suddenly get this mindset that I'm going to do this and you decide I'm committing, I'm in for this. And that is why I don't like this being limited to a calendar year to set and accomplish goals. It's great in the bigger loose picture of it to use that as a guide. But this January 1st through December 31st thing is very limiting. And to me, for me, I can tell you now, it sets me up for failure because I look and think, oh, well, everybody's doing it. It's kind of like, nah, it doesn't really mean anything.
Let's look at this in a different way. The reason why we don't think that goals are time bound, and I don't want to get political, but I'm going to use political office as this. Some people may have the goal of saying, I want to be a senator. I want to be a president, whatever those ambitions may be. First off, your odds of getting there are extremely slim. So it is a challenging goal. I think that's a wonderful thing. And you don't say, I'm going to be senator by the end of the year. You need to spend time deciding what the goal is, why it's important to you, and how you're going to really swing for the fences to achieve it. And how long it takes is not the criteria versus how well you prepare yourself and execute.
Preparation. There's the key with the goal that you don't really have in a challenge. With a challenge, the preparation is part of the thing because it's, in and out.
So that's why I say challenges may be part of your goal. You say, I want to do air-to-air photography. Okay, great. Have you ever done it before? No. Then you've got some challenges to overcome. One of the biggest challenges, how are you going to get up in the air in someone else's airplane? People do it all the time. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I can't guide you on that. You need to find mentors that might be able to help you get there. You might need to go to workshops to learn the basics and mechanics, of how you're going to do air-to-air photography.
Yeah.
I know Moose Peterson does air-to-air photography, and I think he has workshops on that from time to time. That might be someone that you look to as a mentor if that's what you're looking for in aviation photography. The challenge is if you're just a photographer and you're looking up in the sky and said, I wish I were up there taking pictures of planes, you can do it. That's your goal. And how are you going to do it? Those are your challenges.
Yeah.
So that's what we're saying is if you're going to set photography goals, make them grand because, it's really not satisfying to achieve your goal and realize that it didn't take much to do it.
That's true.
Goals should be satisfying when you complete them. And the reason they're satisfying is because you've really pushed yourself. You've done something beyond what perhaps you thought you could do.
They cost you something.
Yeah. You put in time, you put in experience, you learn things along the way.
You burn yourself a few times.
Yeah. You're going to have failures and setbacks, and failures are not problems. Failures are opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll get a failure of a photo that I turn it a different way. I thought, hey, that's art.
A missed attempt isn't a failure, should I say. It's just a stepping stone to success.
Most of you that are photographers, you walk outside, you realize that you don't just take one click and come up with your picture. It takes several, and you're adjusting, you're tweaking, you're moving through a scene or a portrait session or waiting for an animal to show up, whatever it is, type of photography you're doing. It's not just one click and you're done. And all those other shots that you collect and you never show, are they failures or are they how you're building experience? And that's the way I choose to look at it. I got a lot of photographs here, thousands of them that I'm never going to display. I learned something from each one of them. Even when I go back and look at them, I'm thinking, okay, I really wish I hadn't done that. And that's a reminder to me not to not do it again.
Yeah.
Photography goals we wanted to set up is they are quality bound. They are accomplishment, achievement, objective bound. And it's not a time bound issue. And they may include multiple challenges inside to get there. And honestly, swing for the fences. Don't do something halfway. If you're going to have a goal,
go big or go home.
Really, it's go big. Make sure you get there. Don't give up, because that's why it's not time bound. As soon as you give up, it's over. You can meet your goals. Think of it like your bucket list, if that helps you.
Yeah, and also this is really important. When stuff doesn't go to plan, it took me a long time, in training, and this applies to photography or anything where you're working, to realize that when stuff doesn't work out the way you want, or maybe for me a training run would be absolutely terrible. I used to think, oh well, it was that was a bad session. I have learned over time that those are the ones where you find the gold. Those are actually the experiences that really carried me through hard times later on in bigger challenges, shining, because that's what gave me the grit. And it taught me that it's not worth quitting over a few things that don't feel good. right now.
Exactly. And goals can be adjustable. It's not that you give up the idea of your goal, but you may get through it and find out maybe something else is the goal that you're really after. Maybe you hadn't thought it through completely, or maybe you realize that you enjoy something more. It's okay to tweak your goals as you go through them.
Oh, yes. And please do.
Thank you for listening to the Photo Flunky Show. Show notes are going to be available at williambeam.com/episode 104. And don't forget, you can get your free Lightroom portrait brushes at williambeam.com/free brushes. We hope this has helped you out. Maybe you can set some goals. Leave us a comment. Tell us, what is your goal? And we'll be happy to see how you do on your way to get to it. Finally, you can subscribe to the Photo Flunky Show at this page, or you can go to photoflunky.com. There's a player there where you can listen to this and other episodes, and of course, subscribe. If that doesn't work, just go to williambeam.com/iTunes, and that'll take you to our page on iTunes, and you can subscribe there. Thank you so much. Happy New Year again, unless you're not the New Year when you're listening. In that case, have a good day.